Picture this. You've met someone special. After years of independence, maybe after loss or divorce, you've found companionship again. He's charming, attentive, and he's suggesting you move in together. Your heart says yes, but something in your gut tells you to pause. That intuition? It's gold. Because at 60 and beyond, moving in with someone isn't just about romance. It's about protecting everything you've built: your peace, your independence, your financial security, and your dignity. Today, we're going to explore the 5 non-negotiable signs you absolutely must see before you even consider sharing your living space with a man. These aren't just suggestions. They're protective shields that can save you from devastating mistakes. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share could be the difference between your golden years being truly golden or becoming a cautionary tale. Welcome back to The Heart Code, where we dive deep into the psychology of relationships, especially for those of us who've lived long enough to know that wisdom beats wishful thinking every single time. I'm so grateful you're here today, because this topic is crucial. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button right now. We publish content specifically designed for mature women who refuse to settle for less than they deserve. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you for being part of this community. Do me a favor, hit that like button, drop a comment below sharing your thoughts or experiences, and please share this video with any woman who might need to hear this message. Your support through Super Thanks helps us continue creating this essential content, and we appreciate every single contribution, no matter the size. Now, let's dive into something that could change the trajectory of your entire future. Before we explore these 5 critical signs, let's establish something fundamental. Moving in with someone at 60 or beyond is categorically different from moving in with someone at 30. The stakes are exponentially higher. You're not just blending Netflix queues and closet space. You're potentially putting at risk retirement savings you can never rebuild, a home you may have spent decades paying for, health insurance and benefits that took years to secure, relationships with adult children and grandchildren, and, perhaps most importantly, the hard-won independence and peace you've cultivated. The dating landscape has changed dramatically. Many women over 60 are returning to romance after decades of marriage, or they're navigating relationships for the first time after focusing on career and family. The men in your age group are different too. Some are genuinely wonderful partners. Others are opportunists looking for a caretaker, a meal ticket, or someone to solve their problems. Your job is to know the difference before you hand over your house keys. Let's talk about something that makes many women uncomfortable but is absolutely essential. The statistics on elder financial abuse are staggering, and romantic partners are among the most common perpetrators. According to research, women over 60 lose billions of dollars annually to financial exploitation, often by people they trust intimately. I'm not sharing this to scare you. I'm sharing it to prepare you, because knowledge is your best defense, and skepticism, when balanced with openness, is actually a form of self-love. You've worked too hard and come too far to gamble with your security now. The first sign you absolutely must see before moving in with a man is complete financial transparency and responsibility. Notice I didn't say financial wealth. I said transparency and responsibility. These are entirely different things. A man doesn't need to be rich to be a good partner, but he absolutely needs to be honest and responsible about money. What does financial transparency look like? It means he willingly discusses his financial situation without evasion or defensiveness. He's open about his income, his debts, his credit situation, and his spending habits. He doesn't hide purchases or maintain secret accounts. He doesn't get angry when you ask reasonable questions about finances. He understands that at this stage of life, financial compatibility isn't just practical, it's essential for the relationship's survival. Financial responsibility means he lives within his means. He has a budget and follows it. He doesn't have a pattern of borrowing money from friends, family, or previous partners. He pays his bills on time. He has some form of retirement savings or pension, even if modest. He doesn't blame others for his financial situation. He takes ownership of past mistakes and demonstrates he's learned from them. He doesn't pressure you for money or expect you to solve his financial problems. This is critical. A financially responsible man at this age understands that each person brings their own resources to the relationship, and neither should be exploited. Here's what financial transparency and responsibility does not look like, and these are massive red flags that should stop you in your tracks. He's vague about his financial situation, saying things like, "I'm doing fine, don't worry about it." When you ask legitimate questions, he has a history of bankruptcies, foreclosures, or evictions that he either hides or dismisses as bad luck rather than accepting any responsibility. He's currently in significant debt but has no concrete plan to address it. He's borrowed money from previous partners or family members and hasn't paid it back. He expects you to pay for most expenses while you're dating, but talks about shared expenses once you move in together. He pressures you to add his name to your property deed, your bank accounts, or your credit cards shortly after suggesting you move in together. He becomes defensive, angry, or accusatory when you want to discuss finances before cohabitation. Let me share why this matters so profoundly. Margaret was 67 when she met Robert at a community center dance. He was charming, attentive, and after 6 months of dating, he suggested moving in together. He said it would be more economical, they'd have more time together, and at their age, why waste time? Margaret, flattered by his attention and lonely after 10 years of widowhood, agreed. She owned her home outright, had a comfortable pension, and had saved diligently. Robert moved into her house. Within 3 months, a pattern emerged. He wasn't contributing to household expenses as promised. He had credit card bills he hadn't mentioned. He needed to borrow money for car repairs, medical expenses, and other emergencies. Margaret, compassionate and not wanting to seem petty, helped. After 2 years, she discovered Robert had accumulated over $50,000 in debt in her name. He had convinced her to add him to a credit card for emergencies. Those emergencies were his gambling habit. When Margaret tried to ask him to leave, he claimed tenants' rights. It took her 8 months and thousands in legal fees to evict him from her own home. She's now 71, working part-time to rebuild savings she thought were secure, and she's lost the comfortable retirement she'd planned. This isn't a rare story. It happens every single day. Before you move in with anyone, you need to see actual evidence of financial responsibility, not promises, not explanations. Evidence. What does evidence look like? He shows you that he pays his own rent or mortgage consistently. He maintains his own vehicle, his own insurance, his own living expenses without needing to borrow. He has a checking and savings account that he manages responsibly. If he's retired, he has a pension, Social Security, or retirement funds that adequately cover his lifestyle. If he's still working, he has stable employment and doesn't have a pattern of job hopping or being fired. He doesn't have utility shutoff notices, collection calls, or creditors pursuing him. He files his taxes and doesn't have issues with the IRS. If he's been divorced, he's current on any alimony or child support obligations. You need to have explicit, detailed conversations about finances before cohabitation, not surface-level chats. Deep, comprehensive discussions. Here's what you need to know. What is his monthly income from all sources? What are his monthly expenses and obligations? Does he have any debt, and if so, how much, and what's his repayment plan? What is his credit score, and if it's poor, why, and what's he doing about it? Does he have health insurance, or will he expect to use yours? Does he have long-term care insurance or a plan for potential health decline? What are his expectations for how expenses will be split if you live together? Does he expect to pay rent if he moves into your home? How will utilities, groceries, and household expenses be divided? What happens to his current living situation when he moves? And does he have a financial safety net if the relationship doesn't work out? These questions might feel uncomfortable. They might seem unromantic. Good. Romance without reality is fantasy, and fantasy at this stage of life can be financially devastating. A good man will welcome these conversations. He'll appreciate that you're being responsible. He'll be equally concerned about protecting both of your interests. A man with ulterior motives will react very differently. He'll say you don't trust him. He'll accuse you of being materialistic or cold. He'll try to make you feel guilty for being practical. He'll rush you, saying you're overthinking or that these details can be worked out later. He'll compare you unfavorably to previous partners who trusted him more. Any of these reactions should end the conversation about moving in together immediately. Here's a non-negotiable recommendation. Before moving in together, create a cohabitation agreement. This is a legal document that outlines financial responsibilities, property rights, and what happens if the relationship ends. Many people think cohabitation agreements are only for younger couples or wealthy individuals. Wrong. They're especially important for older adults with assets to protect. A cohabitation agreement should specify who owns what property, how expenses will be divided, that neither party has claim to the other's retirement accounts or pensions, what happens to shared purchases if you separate, how long someone has to move out if the relationship ends, and whether either party will have financial obligations to the other after separation. This might sound cold or distrustful, but it's actually the opposite. It's respectful. It acknowledges that both of you are autonomous adults with separate financial lives, and it protects both parties. If a man refuses to sign a cohabitation agreement or gets offended that you want one, that's extremely telling. It suggests he believes he should have access to your assets without any legal obligation or protection for you. One more crucial point about financial transparency. Watch how he talks about his previous relationships, especially regarding money. Does he claim an ex-wife took him for everything? Does he say a previous girlfriend used him for money? Does he describe himself as the victim in every past financial situation? This is a major warning sign. While it's possible he was genuinely wronged, a pattern of financial victimhood often indicates someone who doesn't take responsibility for their choices. It may also indicate someone who's learning from past experiences by being more strategic about accessing resources without being legally responsible. The man who says, "My ex-wife got everything in the divorce," might be positioning himself as sympathetic while planning to rebuild his wealth through your assets. Compare that to a man who says, "The divorce was expensive and taught me the importance of keeping finances separate and being clear about expectations from the start." See the difference? One is playing victim, the other learned and adapted. Financial transparency and responsibility isn't just about protecting your money, it's about fundamental character. A man who's honest and responsible about finances is likely honest and responsible in other areas. A man who's evasive, irresponsible, or opportunistic about money will bring those same qualities into every aspect of your shared life. Money is simply where those traits become most visible and most costly. Don't move in with a man until you've seen consistent, long-term evidence of financial transparency and responsibility, not for weeks, not for months, for at least a year, preferably longer. Watch how he handles money when he doesn't know you're watching. Watch how he treats service workers, which often reveals attitudes about money and status. Watch whether he tips appropriately, pays his debts to friends, and honors financial commitments. These Small behaviors predict larger patterns. The second sign you absolutely must see before moving in with a man is respect for your independence and your existing life. This is about whether he sees you as a whole person with your own identity, or whether he sees you as a supporting character in his story. At 60 and beyond, you've built a life. You have routines, friendships, hobbies, family relationships, and ways of doing things that work for you. A good partner respects and honors this. He doesn't try to absorb you into his life. He doesn't expect you to abandon your identity to accommodate his. He genuinely values your independence and supports you in maintaining it. What does respect for your independence look like in practical terms? He encourages your friendships and doesn't try to isolate you from people who matter to you. He supports your hobbies and interests, even if he doesn't share them. He doesn't mock, minimize, or try to redirect your passions. He respects your relationship with your adult children and grandchildren. He doesn't compete for your attention or create conflict between you and your family. He understands that your family relationships existed before him and will continue regardless of your romantic relationship. He honors your need for alone time and personal space. He doesn't take it personally when you want time to yourself. He has his own interests and friendships, so he's not dependent on you for all his social and emotional needs. He respects your routines and doesn't expect you to completely overhaul your life to accommodate his preferences. He values your opinions and doesn't try to override your decisions about your own life. He sees you as an equal partner, not as someone he needs to manage or improve. Here's what lack of respect for your independence looks like, and these are serious red flags. He criticizes your friends or tries to limit time you spend with them. He makes negative comments about your family or creates drama that forces you to choose between him and them. This is classic isolation behavior. He dismisses your hobbies as silly or a waste of time and pressures you to spend that time with him instead. He gets sulky, angry, or passive-aggressive when you do things without him. He has no interests or friends of his own and expects you to be his entire social world. He makes unilateral decisions about how you'll spend your time together without consulting you. He talks about moving in together as you joining his life rather than building a shared life. He expects you to adapt to his schedule, his routines, his preferences, while showing no willingness to adapt to yours. He frequently says things like, "When we live together, you won't need to do that anymore," referring to activities that are important to you. Let me tell you about Dorothy. She was 63, retired from teaching, and deeply involved in her community. She volunteered at the library, had a book club she'd been part of for 20 years, took art classes, and saw her grandchildren twice a week. She met Franklin at a gallery opening. He was retired from business, charming, and very interested in her. 6 months into dating, he suggested she move into his condo. It was nicer than her apartment, in a better neighborhood, and he painted it as practical. Dorothy agreed. Almost immediately, things changed. The book club met in the evening, and Franklin didn't like her driving at night. Could she ask them to meet during the day instead? Her art class was on the same night Franklin's favorite shows aired. Couldn't she record her shows? No, he wanted to watch together. That was couple time. Her grandchildren were loud and messy. Could she see them at their parents' house instead of having them to the condo? It happened gradually, so gradually that Dorothy didn't recognize the pattern until she'd been living with Franklin for a year and realized she'd given up everything that made her life rich and meaningful. When she tried to reclaim these activities, Franklin became hostile. He'd made sacrifices to accommodate her, he claimed. Why was she being selfish? The relationship ended badly, and Dorothy spent 2 years rebuilding the connections and activities she'd abandoned. She's now 68 and says the experience taught her that a man who truly loves you wants you to flourish, not shrink. Before moving in with a man, you need to see that he actively supports your independent life over a significant period, not just tolerates it, actively supports it. What does active support look like? He asks about your activities with genuine interest. He remembers details about your friends, your family, your hobbies. He encourages you to pursue opportunities that matter to you, even if it means less time with him. If you mention wanting to take a class, join a group, or start a project, he's enthusiastic and asks how he can support you. He's secure enough in himself and the relationship that your independence isn't threatening. He has his own rich, independent life, so he's not trying to make you his entire world. He talks about moving in together as creating a home base from which you both continue to live full, independent lives, not as merging into one entity. You also need to see how he handles disagreement about your choices, because respect for independence is most visible when you're making choices he doesn't prefer. Let's say you want to take a trip with friends. Does he support this, even if it means time apart? Or does he sulk, create obstacles, or make you feel guilty? Let's say you want to spend Sunday afternoons with your grandchildren. Does he honor this as your priority? Or does he schedule things that conflict and then act hurt when you choose your family? These small tests reveal enormous truths about how he sees you and the relationship. A man who respects your independence will sometimes be disappointed when your choices mean less time together, but he'll never try to manipulate or control those choices. He'll express his feelings honestly and then support your decision. Here's something crucial that many women miss. Pay attention to how he talks about his previous relationships, especially long-term ones. Does he describe his ex-wife or ex-girlfriend as having been too independent, too focused on her own interests, not devoted enough to the relationship? Or does he respect that she had her own life and identity? A man who resented his previous partner's independence will resent yours too. It's not about the specific woman, it's about his fundamental belief about what women in relationships should be. If he says things like, "My ex-wife was always off with her friends instead of home with me," that's not a complaint about her. That's a revelation about his expectations. Compare that to a man who says, "My ex-wife and I grew apart because we developed different interests, but I respect that she was passionate about her life." See the difference? One reveals controlling tendencies. The other reveals maturity and respect for autonomy. Another critical aspect of respecting your independence is respecting your space and possessions. Before moving in together, how does he treat your home when he visits? Does he ask before using things or assume he can help himself? Does he respect your organizational systems or try to rearrange things his way? Does he honor your rules about shoes, pets, food, or whatever matters to you in your space? Or does he act like your preferences are negotiable and his comfort takes priority? How someone treats your space when they're a guest predicts how they'll treat shared space when they live there. If he's already acting entitled to your environment before moving in, it will only intensify afterward. A respectful man asks before using your things, honors your household systems even if they're different from his, offers to help but accepts no if you prefer to do things yourself, and treats your home and possessions with care. Let's talk about adult children and grandchildren, because this is a major source of conflict in later life cohabitation. Your relationship with your adult children and grandchildren existed long before this man entered your life, and it's non-negotiable. A good partner understands this and respects it. He doesn't see your family as competition. He doesn't create situations where you have to choose. He understands that your role as mother and grandmother is permanent and precious. What does this look like practically? He's welcoming and kind to your family, but he doesn't try to force closeness or insert himself where he's not wanted. He respects boundaries. He supports your time with your grandchildren, even if it's inconvenient for him. If there's a conflict, he finds solutions rather than making you choose. He doesn't criticize your parenting or try to involve himself in family matters that don't concern him. He understands that holidays and special occasions may prioritize your family traditions over his preferences. Warning signs regarding family include making negative comments about your adult children, especially calling them selfish for expecting time with you, creating conflict around holidays or family events, expecting to be included in family activities immediately rather than letting relationships develop naturally, being jealous of time you spend with grandchildren, criticizing how your children parent, trying to drive wedges between you and your family by highlighting perceived slights or disrespect toward him, making you feel guilty for putting family first. Any man who creates tension between you and your family before you even live together will escalate that behavior once you're cohabitating. This is about control. It's about isolating you from support systems, so you're more dependent on him. Before moving in together, you need to have explicit conversations about family expectations. How will holidays be handled? What role does he expect to play in your family's life? What are his expectations about time you spend with family versus time together? How will you handle family emergencies or needs? What if an adult child needs help, financial or otherwise? These conversations reveal compatibility and respect. A man who respects your independence and your family relationships will approach these conversations collaboratively, looking for solutions that honor everyone's needs. A controlling man will approach them competitively, seeing your family as obstacles to what he wants from you. Respect for independence also means respect for your financial autonomy. Even if you're sharing living expenses, you should maintain separate finances and the freedom to spend your money as you choose without accounting to him. If he expects to control, monitor, or approve your spending, that's not partnership, that's financial control. Before moving in, watch how he reacts when you spend money on yourself or on others. Does he make comments? Does he question your choices? Does he compare your spending to his? These are warning signs of someone who will try to control your finances once you're living together. The third sign you absolutely must see before moving in with a man is emotional maturity and self-regulation. At this stage of life, you absolutely cannot afford to take on a man-child. You need a true partner, and that requires emotional maturity. What is emotional maturity? It's the ability to manage his own emotions without making them your responsibility. It's the capacity to handle disappointment, frustration, and conflict without becoming abusive or manipulative. It's taking responsibility for his own happiness rather than expecting you to manage his emotional state. It's communicating needs clearly without passive aggression or mind games. It's having self-awareness about his triggers, his patterns, and his areas for growth. What does emotional maturity look like in practical, observable ways? He can discuss difficult topics without becoming defensive or aggressive. When he's upset, he identifies and expresses his feelings appropriately, rather than lashing out or shutting down. He takes responsibility for his mistakes and apologizes genuinely when he's wrong. He doesn't keep score or bring up past grievances in unrelated arguments. He can regulate his anger and doesn't use intimidation, yelling, or threats during disagreements. He respects your boundaries and doesn't pressure you to change them. He can tolerate discomfort and doesn't always need immediate resolution or reassurance. He has healthy coping mechanisms for stress that don't involve substances, gambling, or other destructive behaviors. He can self-soothe and doesn't rely solely on you to make him feel better when he's struggling. Here's what emotional immaturity looks like, and these are absolute deal breakers. He has explosive anger that seems disproportionate to the situation. This includes yelling, slamming things, punching walls, or other intimidation tactics. He uses the silent treatment or emotional withdrawal as punishment when he's upset. He makes you responsible for his emotions, saying things like, "You make me so angry," or "I wouldn't act this way if you didn't upset me." He can't accept feedback or criticism without becoming defensive and turning it back on you. He holds grudges and brings up past issues repeatedly, even after they've supposedly been resolved. He has substance abuse issues or other addictive behaviors he refuses to address. He lacks empathy and struggles to understand or care about your feelings. He's emotionally volatile with mood swings that keep you walking on eggshells. He uses guilt, manipulation, or playing the victim to get what he wants. Let me share Patricia's story. She was 68 when she met Alan, who was 72. He seemed like a gentleman, attentive and affectionate. After a year of dating, he moved into her home. Within weeks, she saw a side of him that had been carefully hidden. He had a terrible temper. If dinner wasn't ready when he wanted it, he'd slam doors and refuse to speak to her for days. If she made plans with friends without checking with him first, he'd sulk and make passive-aggressive comments about being neglected. If she disagreed with him about anything, even minor things like what to watch on television, he'd explode in anger, calling her stubborn and unreasonable. Patricia found herself constantly trying to anticipate his moods and avoid triggering his anger. She was anxious in her own home, measuring every word, every action. When she finally asked him to leave after 6 months of this emotional terrorism, he broke down crying, promised to change, and begged for another chance. Patricia, compassionate and hoping he meant it, agreed. Nothing changed. It took her another year and the support of her daughter to finally get him out of her home. She's now 71 and says she'll never again ignore red flags about emotional regulation. Before moving in with anyone, you need to see how they handle the full range of human emotions in multiple contexts over an extended period. Not just when things are going well, not just in the early romantic phase when everyone's on their best behavior. You need to see him stressed, disappointed, frustrated, hurt, and angry. You need to see how he manages these emotions. This takes time. It takes experiencing different situations together. It requires conflict because conflict is where emotional maturity becomes most visible. How does he handle conflict specifically? This is crucial because you will have conflicts if you live together. It's inevitable. The question isn't whether you'll disagree, but how you'll navigate disagreements. An emotionally mature man approaches conflict as a problem to solve together, not a battle to win. He stays focused on the actual issue rather than attacking your character. He can take responsibility for his contribution to the problem. He can listen to your perspective, even when he disagrees. He can compromise and find solutions that work for both of you. He doesn't escalate. If emotions get too high, he can suggest taking a break and returning to the discussion when you're both calmer. He doesn't use low blows, bringing up sensitive topics just to hurt you. After the conflict is resolved, he can move forward without holding a grudge. An emotionally immature man approaches conflict very differently. He becomes defensive immediately and refuses to consider he might be wrong. He attacks your character instead of addressing the issue. He brings up unrelated grievances to deflect from his behavior. He escalates, raising his voice, becoming physically intimidating or threatening to leave. He refuses to compromise, insisting things be done his way. He uses the silent treatment or other forms of emotional punishment. He says hurtful things designed to wound you, then claims he didn't mean it or you're too sensitive. He holds grudges and brings up the same issues repeatedly, even after they've been discussed. Notice a pattern? Emotionally immature conflict management is all about control and winning, not about resolution and partnership. You need to have conflicts before moving in together. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it's essential. If you haven't experienced disagreement and seen how he handles it, you don't know him well enough to cohabitate. If your relationship has been nothing but smooth sailing, either you haven't been together long enough to face real issues, or one of you is suppressing your true thoughts and feelings to keep the peace. Neither of these situations provides good data about compatibility for living together. So how do you create opportunities to see emotional regulation and conflict management? You don't manufacture drama, but you also don't avoid difficult conversations. You express your honest opinions, even when they differ from his. You set boundaries and see how he responds. You share when something bothers you rather than letting it slide. You observe how he handles disappointment when plans change. You watch how he treats service workers when things go wrong. You notice how he talks about people in his life who've disappointed or frustrated him. Another aspect of emotional maturity is how he handles his past. Everyone over 60 has a history: previous marriages, long-term relationships, losses, regrets. An emotionally mature man has processed his past. He's done the work of grieving losses, learning from mistakes, and moving forward. He can talk about his history without bitterness consuming him. He takes ownership of his role in relationship failures. He doesn't speak about all his exes with hatred or contempt. If he does, that's a major red flag. It suggests he hasn't processed those relationships, and he's likely to repeat the same patterns with you. Moreover, how he talks about you when he's angry will eventually mirror how he talks about his exes. If he calls them crazy, stupid, or vindictive, he'll eventually apply those labels to you too. An emotionally immature man is still emotionally entangled with his past. He's bitter about his divorce decades later. He blames his ex-wife for everything that went wrong. He's still fighting battles that ended years ago. He has unprocessed grief that manifests as anger or depression. He hasn't learned from his mistakes and repeats the same relationship patterns. This man isn't ready for a healthy relationship, and moving in with him means inheriting all his unresolved emotional baggage. Let's talk about addiction and compulsive behaviors, because these are major red flags regarding emotional regulation. Addiction comes in many forms. It's not just alcohol and drugs. It can be gambling, pornography, shopping, work, even exercise or food. Any behavior that someone uses compulsively to avoid or manage uncomfortable emotions is a form of addiction. And addiction is fundamentally about emotional dysregulation. It's about not being able to tolerate distress without an external coping mechanism. Before moving in with someone, you need to know if they have any addictive or compulsive behaviors and whether they're actively managing them. A man in recovery who's working a program, attending meetings, and taking his sobriety seriously can be a wonderful partner. His recovery work has likely given him tools for emotional regulation that many people never develop. But a man with active addiction or someone in denial about compulsive behaviors is an absolute disaster waiting to happen. The signs of addiction or compulsive behavior include secrecy around certain activities or spending, defensiveness when asked about certain behaviors, continuing a behavior despite negative consequences, lying or minimizing the extent of the behavior, mood changes related to the behavior, either engaging in it or being unable to, financial problems related to the behavior, relationships damaged by the behavior. If you see any of these signs, do not move forward with cohabitation until the person has been in active, successful recovery for a significant period, and even then, proceed with extreme caution. Emotional maturity also includes the capacity for empathy and perspective-taking. Can he understand and care about your feelings, even when they're different from his? Can he imagine situations from your point of view? Does he recognize that his reality isn't the only reality? An empathetic, emotionally mature man will validate your feelings even when he doesn't share them. He'll say things like, I can see why that would upset you, or I understand why you feel that way. He won't dismiss your emotions or tell you you shouldn't feel what you feel. He'll be curious about your inner world and want to understand you better. He'll adjust his behavior when he learns something causes you distress, even if he doesn't personally understand why it's distressing. An emotionally immature man lacks empathy. He can't or won't try to understand feelings different from his own. He dismisses your emotions as irrational or an overreaction. He insists his perspective is correct and yours is wrong. He doesn't adjust his behavior even when you've explained how it affects you. He makes your feelings about him getting defensive rather than responding with care. This inability to empathize makes genuine partnership impossible. You'll spend your energy trying to make him understand your basic human needs and feelings, which is exhausting and demeaning. Before moving in with a man, ask yourself these questions. Have I seen him handle stress in healthy ways multiple times over an extended period? Have we had disagreements and did he manage conflict respectfully? Does he take responsibility for his mistakes or always blame others? Can he self-soothe or does he always need me to make him feel better? Does he respect my boundaries or pressure me to change them? Can he tolerate disappointment without becoming mean or withdrawn? Does he have healthy relationships with other people, or is there a pattern of conflict and falling out? Has he done work to process his past, or is he still emotionally entangled with old wounds? Does he show empathy for my feelings and adjust his behavior accordingly? If the answer to any of these questions is no, or I don't know, you don't have enough information to make a decision about living together. Emotional maturity isn't something someone can fake for a few dates. It shows up in patterns over time. Take the time to see those patterns clearly. The fourth sign you absolutely must see before moving in with a man is consistent respect for boundaries and consent. This is about whether he sees you as an autonomous person with the right to make choices about your own body, your own space, your own time, and your own life, or whether he sees you as someone who should comply with his wishes. Boundaries and consent aren't just about sex, though that's certainly included. They're about every aspect of your interaction. A man who respects boundaries and consent will honor your no without punishment or manipulation. He'll ask rather than assume. He'll be more concerned with your comfort than with getting what he wants. He'll recognize that your needs and preferences are just as important as his. What does respect for boundaries look like practically? He asks before touching you, especially in the beginning of the relationship. And he pays attention to your body language and verbal cues. If you stiffen, pull away, or say no, he stops immediately without making you feel guilty. He respects your sexual boundaries completely, never pressuring you to do things you're uncomfortable with. He understands that consent is ongoing and can be withdrawn at any time. He honors your need for personal space and alone time without taking it as rejection. He respects your time and doesn't expect you to be available whenever he wants. He asks before making plans that involve you rather than assuming your availability. He respects your boundaries with your possessions, your home, and your personal information. He doesn't go through your phone, your mail, or your belongings. He respects your emotional boundaries, not pushing you to share more than you're comfortable with or to process feelings on his timeline. He respects your right to say no to anything, anytime, for any reason, and he doesn't punish you for it. Here's what disrespect for boundaries looks like, and these are serious warnings. He pushes for physical intimacy before you're ready and makes you feel guilty for setting limits. He tries to convince you to change your sexual boundaries using pressure, coercion, or manipulation. He doesn't stop when you say no or shows reluctance. He gets angry, sulky, or withdrawn when you set any boundary. He violates boundaries you've clearly stated, then apologizes and promises not to do it again, but repeats the behavior. He goes through your personal belongings, phone or email, justifying it by saying he's just curious or checking because he cares. He shows up uninvited or contacts you excessively, not respecting your need for space. He makes plans that involve you without asking, then gets upset when you can't or won't participate. He shares your personal information with others without your permission. He pressures you to share information or feelings you're not ready to share. Let me tell you about Helen. She was 65 when she met Gregory, who was 69. Early in dating, she noticed small boundary violations. He'd show up at her house without calling first. He'd take food off her plate at restaurants without asking. He'd hug her or try to hold her hand before she'd indicated she was comfortable with that level of physical intimacy. Helen, not wanting to seem uptight, didn't say anything. She told herself these were small things and she should be flattered by his enthusiasm. After 6 months, Gregory suggested moving in together. Helen, who'd been lonely and appreciated the companionship, agreed. The boundary violations escalated immediately. He expected sex whenever he wanted it and became angry when Helen wasn't in the mood. He went through her phone and confronted her about male friends, accusing her of cheating. He opened her mail and questioned her spending. He showed up at places where she'd gone without him, saying he wanted to surprise her, but really he was checking on her. Helen felt increasingly suffocated and controlled. When she tried to reinstate boundaries, Gregory became emotionally abusive, accusing her of not loving him and comparing her to his ex-wife, who he claimed was cold and withholding. It took Helen 8 months to get Gregory to leave, and she had to get a restraining order when he refused to accept the relationship was over. She's now 68 and says she wishes she'd recognized that those early small boundary violations were previewing his complete disregard for her autonomy. The early stages of dating are when people are on their best behavior. If he's violating boundaries when he's trying to impress you, imagine how much worse it will be once he's comfortable and living in your space. Pay attention to small boundary violations because they predict larger ones. Does he respect your no the first time, or does he keep pushing until you give in? This is crucial. A man who respects boundaries will accept your first no gracefully. A man who doesn't respect boundaries will keep asking, keep negotiating, keep pressuring until you're worn down and comply. This is a manipulation tactic. He's training you that your no doesn't mean anything and that persistence will override your stated preferences. Let's talk specifically about sexual boundaries because this is an area where many women over 60 feel uncomfortable asserting themselves. You may have been raised in an era that taught you to be accommodating, that your role was to please your partner, that saying no made you frigid or difficult. Please hear this. You have absolute right to bodily autonomy at any age. You never owe anyone sexual contact. You can say no at any time for any reason or no reason. You can change your mind. You can set limits about what you're comfortable with sexually, and a good man will not only respect these boundaries, he'll actively want you to only engage in sexual activity you genuinely desire. A man who pressures you sexually, who sulks or punishes you for not being available sexually, who tries to convince you to do things you're uncomfortable with, who doesn't stop when you indicate you want to stop. This man is dangerous. Sexual coercion is a form of sexual assault. It doesn't matter if you're in a relationship. It doesn't matter if you live together. It doesn't matter if you've consented in the past. You always have the right to say no, and he always has the obligation to respect that. Before moving in with a man, you need to have clear conversations about sexual expectations and boundaries. What are your comfort levels? What are his expectations? How will you handle differences in desire? How will you communicate about sex? What happens if one of you is no longer interested in sexual activity? These conversations might feel awkward, but they're essential. They reveal whether he sees sex as something you share or something you provide. They show whether he respects your agency or expects compliance. Pay attention to how he responds to these conversations. Does he listen and respect your boundaries? Does he try to negotiate or change your mind about limits you've set? Does he become defensive or accusatory? Does he make you feel bad for having boundaries? His response tells you everything you need to know about whether he's safe to live with. Boundaries also extend to your space and belongings. Before moving in, how does he treat your home when he visits? Does he ask before using things or helping himself? Does he respect your systems and preferences? Does he clean up after himself or expect you to serve him? These behaviors predict how he'll act once he lives there, except they'll intensify. If he's already acting entitled to your space, your food, your belongings when he's a guest, he'll be impossibly entitled once he's a resident. A respectful man will ask before using your bathroom products, your kitchen equipment, your Wi-Fi password. He'll clean up his messes. He'll honor your organizational systems, even if they're different from how he'd do it. He'll treat your home and belongings with care. Another critical boundary issue is privacy and personal information. A man who respects boundaries will not go through your phone, your computer, your mail, or your belongings without your explicit permission. He won't demand your passwords or access to your accounts. He won't share your personal information with others without your consent. He won't pressure you to share information you're not ready to share. He won't use information you've shared in confidence against you during arguments. If a man violates your privacy in any way, that's a massive red flag. It shows he believes he's entitled to know everything about you and to access your private spaces. This belief is fundamentally incompatible with respecting your autonomy. Watch how he handles it when you assert a boundary. This is the real test. Does he respect it immediately, or does he push back? Does he accept it gracefully, or does he make you justify it? Does he honor it going forward, or does he test it repeatedly to see if you really mean it? A man who respects boundaries will thank you for being clear about your needs. He might be disappointed, but he won't be angry. He won't try to change your mind. He won't punish you for having boundaries. He'll adjust his behavior to honor your stated limits. A man who doesn't respect boundaries will react very differently. He'll act hurt or offended that you need boundaries with him. He'll accuse you of not trusting him or not caring about him. He'll keep testing the boundary to see if you'll enforce it. He'll violate the boundary and then apologize, creating a cycle where your boundaries are constantly being crossed and then supposedly forgiven. This is emotional abuse, and it will only get worse if you live together. Before moving in with a man, ask yourself these questions. Does he respect my no without making me feel guilty or pressuring me to change my mind? Does he ask before assuming he can touch me, use my things, or access my space? Does he respect my sexual boundaries completely? Does he honor my need for alone time and personal space? Does he respect my privacy and not go through my personal belongings or information? When I assert a boundary, does he respect it or does he push back? Does he have healthy boundaries of his own, or is he overly enmeshed and expect the same from me? If the answer to any of these questions is concerning, do not move forward with living together. Respect for boundaries and consent is fundamental to a safe, healthy relationship. Without it, you're setting yourself up for a controlling, potentially abusive situation. The fifth and final sign you absolutely must see before moving in with a man is a clear, realistic vision for the relationship that aligns with yours. This is about making sure you're building the same life. At this stage, you cannot afford to waste time on someone who wants something fundamentally different than you do. You need clarity about expectations, intentions, and the future you're building together. What does a clear, aligned vision look like? He can articulate what he wants from the relationship, and it matches what you want. He's looking for the same level of commitment you are. If you want marriage, he's open to marriage. If you want committed partnership without legal ties, he respects that. He has realistic expectations about what living together will look like, and so do you. You've discussed practical matters like household responsibilities, finances, healthcare, and what you'll do if the relationship doesn't work out. You're aligned on major lifestyle issues like where you'll live, how you'll spend time, how you'll handle family, and what you want your daily life to look like. He's committed to working on the relationship and growing together. He sees the relationship as a partnership between equals, not a hierarchy where one person serves the other. What does misalignment or lack of clarity look like? He's vague about what he wants from the relationship and deflects when you try to have concrete conversations. He says things like, "Let's just see where this goes," or "Why do we need to label it?" when you're trying to establish clarity about commitment. His vision for living together is fundamentally different from yours. Maybe you envision maintaining some independence and he wants complete enmeshment, or vice versa. He has unstated expectations that only become clear once you're living together. He expected you to do all the cooking, cleaning, and caregiving, but he never said that explicitly before you moved in. He's not willing to discuss difficult topics like what happens if one of you becomes ill, what happens if the relationship ends, or how you'll handle family conflicts. He becomes defensive or accusatory when you try to have planning conversations, acting like you're being difficult or unromantic. Let me share Beatrice's story. She was 61 when she met Samuel, who was 66. They dated for a year and the relationship seemed solid. When Samuel suggested moving in together, Beatrice agreed, excited about building a life with him. They never had detailed conversations about expectations and vision. Beatrice assumed they'd split household responsibilities since they were both retired. Samuel assumed Beatrice would handle all domestic work since his ex-wife always had. Beatrice envisioned them each maintaining their own social lives while also having couple time. Samuel expected them to do everything together. Beatrice thought they'd keep finances separate with a shared account for household expenses. Samuel thought they'd pool everything. These misalignments created constant conflict. Beatrice felt like an unpaid housekeeper and resented Samuel's expectation that she'd serve him. Samuel felt neglected when Beatrice spent time with friends and accused her of not being committed to the relationship. The relationship deteriorated quickly, but separating was messy because they'd never discussed what would happen if things didn't work out. Beatrice had given up her apartment to move into Samuel's house, so she had to find new housing quickly. The whole experience was devastating and could have been avoided with clear, detailed conversations before cohabitation. Before moving in with anyone, you need to have comprehensive conversations about vision and expectations, not surface-level chats. Deep, detailed discussions about every aspect of shared life. Here's what you need to discuss. What does commitment mean to each of you? Are you moving toward marriage or permanent partnership? Or is this more open-ended? How will you handle household responsibilities? Who will do what? How will you divide cooking, cleaning, yard work, home maintenance, and all the other tasks of daily life? What are your financial expectations? How will expenses be split? Will you maintain separate finances or combine them? What happens to assets if the relationship ends? What is your vision for daily life? How much time do you expect to spend together versus apart? What are your routines and how will you honor both of your needs? How will you handle social life and friendships? Will you socialize primarily as a couple? Or will you maintain independent friendships and activities? How will you navigate family relationships? What role will each of you play in the other's family? How will you handle holidays, family emergencies, and adult children's needs? What are your expectations about caregiving if one of you becomes ill? This is crucial and often avoided, but you must discuss it. What if one of you develops dementia, has a stroke, needs significant care? What are the expectations? What happens if the relationship ends? How much notice will you give? Who will move out? How will you divide shared property or expenses? What are your plans for aging? Do you want to age in place? Do you have long-term care insurance? Do you have advanced directives? Do you want the other person to be your healthcare proxy? These conversations might seem unromantic or morbid. They're not. They're respectful and realistic. They're about building a foundation of clarity and mutual understanding. A mature, emotionally healthy man will welcome these conversations. He'll want the same clarity you do. He'll understand that clear expectations prevent conflict and resentment. He'll be willing to negotiate and compromise to find solutions that work for both of you. A man who isn't ready for genuine partnership will react very differently to these conversations. He'll say you're overthinking or being too negative. He'll refuse to discuss difficult topics like illness or relationship ending. He'll get defensive when you bring up expectations. He'll be vague and evasive rather than clear and concrete. He'll say things will work themselves out rather than planning proactively. Pay attention to whether his words match his actions. He might say he values equality and partnership, but does his behavior demonstrate that? Does he expect you to do all the emotional labor of planning, coordinating, and managing the relationship? Does he contribute equally to household tasks when he visits, or does he expect to be served? Does he talk about your future together using we language, or is it more about what you'll do for him? Actions always reveal more than words. Before committing to living together, watch the patterns. They predict the future. Another critical aspect of aligned vision is understanding each other's deal breakers. What are the things that would end the relationship for each of you? This might include infidelity, financial irresponsibility, addiction, abuse, or other serious issues. But it might also include things like refusing to respect boundaries with adult children, expecting one person to give up their independence, or refusing to contribute fairly to household life. You need to know each other's deal breakers before you move in together, and you need to be honest about whether you can realistically meet each other's expectations. If his deal breaker is having sex every day and you're not interested in that level of sexual activity, that's important to know before cohabitation. If your deal breaker is him trying to control your relationship with your grandchildren and he's already shown signs of being jealous of that time, you need to address it now, not after he's moved in. Let's talk about something many women struggle with: the difference between compromise and self-abandonment. Healthy relationships require compromise. You won't agree on everything, and you'll both need to adjust some expectations and preferences to make shared life work. But compromise is different from self-abandonment. Compromise is when you both give a little to reach a solution that's acceptable to both of you. Self-abandonment is when you give up fundamental parts of yourself, your values, your needs, your identity, to accommodate someone else. Before moving in together, you need to be clear about what you can compromise on and what you cannot. What can you compromise on? Specific routines like what time you eat dinner or how you organize the pantry, how you spend leisure time, finding activities you both enjoy while maintaining some separate interests. The division of household tasks, as long as it feels fair and both people contribute. Where you live, if you're both willing to relocate and can find a place that meets both your needs. What you cannot compromise on, what should be deal breakers, your core values and beliefs. If you have fundamentally different values about honesty, kindness, responsibility, family, these conflicts won't resolve through compromise. Your need for respect, safety, and autonomy. These are non-negotiable in any healthy relationship. Your relationship with your children and grandchildren. You can compromise on logistics, but not on maintaining these precious relationships. Your financial security. You cannot compromise your financial safety to make a relationship work, your physical and mental health. If a relationship requires you to sacrifice your well-being, it's not a relationship worth having. If you find yourself contemplating giving up fundamental parts of who you are to make a relationship work, that's not compromise. That's self-abandonment, and it's a clear sign that this relationship isn't right for you. Before moving in with someone, honestly assess whether you're compromising or abandoning yourself. If it's the latter, step back and reconsider whether this relationship serves you. Finally, let's talk about the timeline. How long should you date someone before considering moving in together? There's no magic number, but at this stage of life, you should not rush. The early stages of any relationship involve chemical responses in the brain that can cloud judgment. You're flooded with dopamine, oxytocin, and other chemicals that make you feel euphoric and bonded. This is lovely, but it's not a good state for making major life decisions. This chemical phase typically lasts 6 months to 2 years. During this time, you're seeing the best version of the person. They're on their best behavior, trying to impress you. You're more forgiving of flaws and more likely to rationalize concerning behaviors. After this honeymoon phase ends, you see the real person, their true habits, their stress responses, their less appealing qualities. This is when you get accurate data about who they really are and whether you're compatible for long-term partnership. My recommendation is to date for at least 18 months to 2 years before considering cohabitation. During this time, you should experience multiple seasons, holidays, and life events together. You should see each other in various contexts, with your families, with your friends, when you're sick, when you're stressed, when you're disappointed, when things don't go your way. You should have conflicts and see how you navigate them together. You should travel together if possible, because travel reveals a lot about compatibility. You should see each other's living spaces and habits. You should have deep conversations about all the topics I've outlined: finances, expectations, boundaries, vision. If someone is pressuring you to move in together quickly before you have this essential information, that's a red flag. Why the rush? Usually, it's because they have an agenda that won't withstand scrutiny over time. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. If you have doubts, honor them. If you're feeling pressured, step back. You've lived this long making good decisions for yourself. Don't abandon your wisdom now because you're lonely or because someone is charming. Your peace and security are too precious to gamble on someone who hasn't proven themselves trustworthy over time. Moving in with someone should feel like a natural next step in a healthy, stable relationship, not like a leap of faith into uncertainty. Before we wrap up, I want to address something that might be on your mind. What if you've already moved in with someone and you're now recognizing red flags you missed? First, please know you're not alone and you're not foolish. These situations are common, and manipulative people are skilled at hiding their true nature until you're committed. Second, it's never too late to protect yourself. If you're in a living situation that feels unsafe, controlling, or financially exploitative, you have options. Reach out to family or friends you trust. Contact local resources for elder abuse or domestic violence. They're not just for people experiencing physical violence. Financial exploitation and emotional abuse are serious, and they have resources to help. Consult with an attorney about your rights and options for separating safely. Document any financial abuse, threats, or concerning behaviors. This documentation can be crucial if you need legal intervention. Make a safety plan if you're concerned about his reaction to you asking him to leave, or if you need to leave. Please take this seriously. Your safety matters. Let's also address the question some of you might be thinking. Does this mean I should never trust anyone? Should I be suspicious and closed off? Absolutely not. These guidelines aren't about being cynical or distrustful. They're about being wise and discerning. There are wonderful men out there who will meet every single one of these criteria. Men who are financially responsible, who respect your independence, who are emotionally mature, who honor your boundaries, and who share your vision for partnership. These men exist, and they're worth waiting for. What I'm encouraging you to reject is the idea that you should settle for less than you deserve just to avoid being alone. Loneliness is uncomfortable, but it's far better than being trapped in a living situation with someone who exploits, controls, or disrespects you. You deserve a partner who enhances your life, not one who complicates or diminishes it. I also want to speak to those of you who might be thinking this is too much work, too many questions, too much scrutiny. Here's what I know. The work you put in before moving in together is nothing compared to the work of trying to leave a bad living situation or living with someone incompatible. Asking hard questions, having difficult conversations, taking your time to see patterns. These efforts protect you. They're not obstacles to love. They're the foundation of healthy love. A man who truly cares about you will respect and appreciate your thoughtfulness. He'll want you to feel secure and confident in the decision. He'll participate enthusiastically in these conversations because he wants the same clarity you do. Think about it this way. You wouldn't make a major financial investment without due diligence. You'd research, ask questions, read the fine print, maybe consult experts. Moving in with someone at this stage of life is at least as significant as a major financial investment. It affects your housing, your finances, your daily life, your family relationships, your peace of mind, and potentially your health and safety. It deserves at least the same level of careful consideration you'd give to any other major life decision. This isn't being cold or calculating. It's being responsible to yourself and your future. Let me leave you with this. At 60 and beyond, you have something precious that younger people often lack: the wisdom that comes from life experience. You've seen relationships work and fail. You've made decisions you're proud of and decisions you regret. You know yourself in ways you never could have at 30. You know what you need to be happy, what you can tolerate, and what you absolutely cannot. This wisdom is your superpower. Use it, trust it. Don't let loneliness, societal pressure, or someone's charm convince you to ignore what you know to be true. You are not desperate. You are not running out of time. You are not obligated to give anyone a chance who hasn't earned it. You are a complete, valuable person, whether you're partnered or single. If you choose to share your life with someone, it should be because that person genuinely adds to your life, not because you're afraid of being alone. The right person, the person worthy of you, will demonstrate every single one of these 5 signs consistently over time: financial transparency and responsibility, respect for your independence and existing life, emotional maturity and self-regulation, respect for boundaries and consent, clear, aligned vision for the relationship. You don't have to settle for less. You don't have to rationalize or make excuses for someone who doesn't meet these standards. You don't have to give someone the benefit of the doubt when they've shown you exactly who they are. Your golden years should be golden. You've worked too hard, come too far, and overcome too much to spend this precious time with someone who doesn't honor and cherish you. Wait for someone who does. And if that someone doesn't come along, create a beautiful life anyway. Fill it with friends, family, hobbies, purpose, and joy. A mediocre relationship will never be better than a life you've crafted intentionally for yourself. You are enough exactly as you are. Before we close, I want to share one final thought. The decision about whether to move in with someone isn't just about that person. It's about you and what you want for your life. Before you even consider cohabitation, ask yourself some fundamental questions. What do I want my daily life to look like? What brings me joy and peace? What are my non-negotiables for how I spend my time and energy? What does a successful relationship look like to me? What am I willing to compromise on, and what am I not? Do I want to live with someone, or am I considering it because I feel like I should or because he wants to? Am I excited about building a shared life with this specific person, or am I just afraid of being alone? Would I be happy with this person's current behavior continuing exactly as it is forever, or am I counting on him changing? These questions are crucial. The answers should guide your decision far more than what he wants or what anyone else thinks you should do. This is your life. You get to decide how to live it. Thank you so much for being here today and investing this time in yourself. If this video resonated with you, please give it a like. It helps other women find this content. Share it with any woman who might benefit from hearing these truths. Leave a comment below sharing your thoughts, your experiences, or your questions. This community thrives when we support and learn from each other. Subscribe to the Heart Code so you never miss content designed specifically for mature women navigating relationships, independence, and life's challenges. And if you found value in this video, please consider supporting the channel with super thanks. It allows us to continue creating in-depth, honest content that serves you. I'll see you in the next video, where we'll continue exploring how to build a life of dignity, joy, and authenticity at any age. Until then, remember, you are worthy of respect. You deserve genuine partnership, and you never have to settle for less than you deserve. Take care of yourself.